Then in terms of West Ham, a US businessman is reportedly in talks to buy the Gold family's shares in the club. How much do you think maybe a 25% share in West Ham could be worth?
Well, it could be worth a fair bit, especially when if their women's team is now also worth 20 times their revenue. They won't have big revenue, but if an American investor believes that the women's team and the women's proposition has real value on its own, then all of a sudden, all of the major clubs have got a major additional asset that's sort of come from nowhere in value terms, and is now worth maybe 100 million on its own. So at West Ham, and so potentially that's another little added extra. But generally, West Ham are a club with 60,000 average attendance now, which is notable. A Premier League franchise, for want of a better word, which we know Americans love to think about and Brits hate. There may well be a feeling in the investment community, particularly from the US, that relegation is now extremely unlikely for some of these clubs. We are likely to have a situation this season where 3 teams have got around 40 points and have stayed up. And those 3 teams are Tottenham, Manchester United and West Ham United. And it may be that the perception going forward is that actually, if you are a side of big enough scale, that you are more or less guaranteed Premier League survival. And if that becomes the case and relegation is less of a risk, then valuation should go up because you can have more certainty on what the forward-looking numbers look like. Anyway, look, top and bottom of it is I would think 25% of West Ham could be worth 250 million quid. Doesn't seem completely unbelievable to me. I think it would be ridiculous in the context of what happened at Newcastle just 3 years ago, or whatever it was, 4 years ago, where it was bought for 300 million, that we would have West Ham being valued at $1 billion. But that's where we are right now. If we're saying a women's team on its own can be worth 225 million quid, then obviously that carries with it the rest of the valuations around the asset. So I would think they can, quite possibly get between 150 and 250 for 25%, but it is a non-controlling stake, minority stake. It's not that attractive to be in that position, as we've seen from John Textor. Once you're in minority, there are complexities to what your influence can be in the management of the club.
And then West Ham have announced that they're releasing Fabianski, Cresswell, Soufal and Ings at the end of this season. They've already confirmed that. So that suggests they are set for quite a big overhaul of the squad, and I guess there's some savings on those players too because they've been there quite a few years.
Yeah, there'll be decent sized wage savings. They're obviously going to have to rebuild the squad because look where they are in the league, and that'll apply to all of those teams at the bottom end, because they can't risk relegation. Just can't. It's not, remember, all of these clubs, we saw it with Leicester, because Leicester had got themselves into this position as well. They're all set up for Premier League, such that if you go down, it's a disastrous situation, because you just can't manage everything that needs changing. You can't manage a wage bill down in half overnight without selling off all your best players. So, your wage bill, not just on the field, but also off the field, and your cost base off the field is all set up to be at a certain level. So if you get relegated, you almost certainly breach financial fair play, and then there's a knock-on effect of that. And we know Leicester got away with it, but it doesn't. They would have breached, and it has knock-on effects, because then you start to lose points, and then it becomes harder to get promotion, or it makes you more likely to get relegated, and you go in this spiral. So you've got to avoid relegation, so they've got to rebuild the squad.